The interpretation of narratives is to some extent subjective, because everyone can experience art differently. At the same time, using literary analysis, we can still explain the most reasonable meanings that the artist meant to convey or that the audience is likely to understand. To understand themes of any work of art, however, spoilers are involved. Heavy spoilers. So consider this your spoiler warning. Esoteric the D&D-based Disco Elysium-like CRPG by solo developer Christopher Bodegard, is a debut game that is surprisingly deep and immersive. Even though the game has amazing choice and consequence-like gameplay, somehow the narrative manages to be not only coherent, but also powerful, weaving in intricate themes while allowing a significant number of options in terms of how the game will play out. These themes span a wide variety of topics, and because of the way the game is structured, there is no way I can cover all the themes without replaying the game several times. Despite this, I still think there are a number of themes that stood out to me, at least in my playthrough. In this video, we're going to investigate said themes and answer the question, what esoteric themes of needs can the cleric reveal to us in an ebbing society? Our first theme for today's video on themes in Esoteric Ebb is that of the need to choose your identity. The concept of identity can be seen even in the companions. Snell, a loyal agent of the Halfway Bridge tribe, has a very strong identity as a goblin. His difficulty, though, is that he is not sure what a goblin is. What does it mean to be a goblin living in a city founded by a god that destroyed your people? He must figure that out and choose. Etter, too, is seeking her identity as well. What does it mean to be an angel of a god who is dead? She must figure that out and choose. Even Lady Sageleaf is quite interesting. Although she is clearly comfortable with her identity as a dragon, as signified by her nickname, the Dragon of Tolstad, she also values her role as the goblin leader of the Halfway Bridge tribe, and has chosen to lead the goblins because she cares about them. The concept of choosing an identity, however, is most clear in the protagonist, the cleric. Almost everything about him requires him to identify who he wants to be, which of course makes sense in most role-playing games, but is particularly emphasized in this game. Though his mother is famous and he lives at home, he doesn't want that to be known. Instead, he has to think about his name. Does he want to be known as Rain or the cleric? He has to think about how he identifies himself career-wise. I chose to be the cleric, but you can also choose to identify as a rogue, a wizard, a druid, a bard, or even a warlock. In fact, Freydis chooses a warlock identity despite being a noble, and Gorm chooses a warlock identity despite being a paladin, both accepting Everglad as their patron being. The cleric can also follow them, but I did not do that. Besides this, Esoteric Ebb expects the cleric to choose his political identity. Does he want to be a nationalist, a freestrider, an Asgalist, or even a tyrant? Is he a city official or more of an independent investigator? These choices are built into the mechanics of the game, with the ability scores representing the cleric's identity as parts of the psyche: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, all of which help develop the idea of choosing your identity. Perhaps the most important part of the cleric's identity, however, is his religious identity when he is able to meet his dead god. At the end of the game, the cleric has an option. Does he want to continue to serve Earth as a cleric or to reject him? In the book of Exodus, the Lord tells the Israelites through Moses that they too have to choose a religious identity. Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the people of Israel. So Moses came and called the elders of the people and set before them all these words that the Lord had commanded him. All the people answered together and said, "All that the Lord has spoken we will do." And Moses reported the words of the people to the Lord. Exodus chapter 19, verses 5 to 8. Just like how the people of Israel choose to be God's treasured possession, the cleric has to choose what identity he wants to have. And I love that the player can choose to serve Earth faithfully. This is not the only theme of need in the game, however. Another important theme that can be developed is that of the need for friendship. Our second theme for today's video on Esoteric Ebb themes is that of the need for friendship. This theme is not initially obvious, since the protagonist spends the whole game working, not just hanging out or doing leisure activities. As such, it's not immediately apparent that friendship is an important consideration. Despite this, it gradually becomes clear that the cleric must accomplish his task going it alone, without a lot of government backing, emphasizing his need for allies or even friends, when his official authority may no longer be sufficient. The humor of the game, while quite hilarious, masks another important consideration, which is that the cleric seems to be, if you choose it, socially awkward, with inane comments or inept actions often an available choice. He can be easily intimidated and can get anxious when asking women out on dates, like Vera, Iter, Moongor, or even the Sphinx, requiring constitution checks to continue flirting or to muster up the courage to ask them out. Initially, the cleric is also not particularly good at interacting with his possible companions, like Snell or Iter. But this is not just his fault. His companions also seem to be lacking in social skills and friends. Iter has no friends among the Celestials. She is the youngest angel and has difficulty relating to the older angels. When the cleric first meets Iter, she seems adrift, lost in purpose, and rather alone. Snell, too, is described as a lone wolf, someone who serves his lady and does nothing else. He has an attachment to Lady Sageleaf, but no meaningful friends to speak of. Meek, the mimic companion, is also somewhat lonely, having no friends because he is not intelligent compared to his masters, but too intelligent compared to other mimics. If the player wishes, and if he passes the right checks and roleplays in the right ways, he can get Snell and Iter to join him on his tasks throughout the game. He can even get Meek, and the cleric can build friendships with all of them. This theme is developed most in Earth's revelation and reminder of the cleric's consistent prayer to Earth, the prayer for one friend. The game implies that even if you don't convince Iter and Meek to join you, which would be your second and third friend, Snell can join you and become your one friend, implying that Earth has fulfilled the cleric's prayer. In the Bible, there are many proverbs that suggest that friends can be important, even more intimate than a sibling. A man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Proverbs 18, verse 24. Like how the speaker of the proverb suggests that there is a friend that is closer than a brother, the cleric needs a friend and has the need fulfilled, in that of Snell and possibly Eder and Meek. The cleric's meeting with Earth also highlights another important theme of the game, however, which is that of managing risks. Our third theme on needs for today's video on themes of Esoteric Ebb is that of the need to manage risk. Managing risks is hinted at and developed with the motif of strings, which seems to be a metaphor for fate or destiny, balanced with the idea of chance and risk. This theme is not really apparent in the early parts of the game. There are not a lot of hints towards this idea on the first day or two. However, slowly the hints come out with terms like risk, chance, gamble. More importantly, Eder asks the cleric about the concept of gambling it all on slight odds, but this doesn't seem significant until they meet Earth later. The theme of chance and risks comes into focus when the party meets Everglad, the warlock patron. Everglad suggests that he is behind the scenes, manipulating different actors, such as Freydis and Gorm, all in hopes of trying to create better chances of an outcome he desires. This theme of chances and risks is also developed through the D&D-based D20 game mechanics. The concept of being able to see difficulty classes, DCs, and to attempt to manage them by equipping items to improve stats, to lower DCs through different actions, and finally, to go for the roll by actually committing to an action is also a powerful way the game develops the idea of mitigating and managing risks. When Earth discusses his failures regarding the Norvik genocide of the goblins, he talks a lot about the risks he took and didn't take. Earth is humble and suggests that he did not have omniscience, only an ability similar to the player, an ability to see the percentage odds without knowing perfectly. With that as the context, the game conveys the idea that risks should be mitigated, that gambling it all on a 51% chance is reckless. Risks should be managed, and chances should be increased as much as possible. Although I did not go this route, my understanding is that if you are going more the Wizard God King route, the theme of risks and calculating risks is also integrated into the final election, although I don't have any footage of this. Diversifying risk as wisdom is highlighted by the preacher, in the book of Ecclesiastes. Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Give a portion to 7 or even to 8, for you know not what disaster may happen on earth. Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verses 1 and 2. Besides this, the game also suggests that hesitation and inaction are also risks and that decisions are sometimes forced. If risks are unable to be dealt with, other actions must be taken and committed to. Jesus himself teaches this as well. Now great crowds accompanied him, and he turned and said to them, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children, and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, 'This man began to build and was not able to finish.' Or what king, going out to encounter another king in war, will not sit down first and deliberate whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? And if not, while the other is yet a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. So therefore, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple." Luke chapter 14, verses 25 to 33. Like how Jesus describes the need to calculate risks and commit to an action, particularly being his disciple, Earth, too, describes the inherent need to both manage risk and chance as much as possible while still not being stuck in analysis paralysis. Earth's actions or inactions, his successes and his failures, continue to haunt him in his death, or his undeath to be more precise. And this leads him to his final actions, the setting up of the election for a new era. This concept of a new era is our final theme for today. The need for a new era is our final esoteric ebb theme for this video. The concept of a need for change, a need for a new era, is developed on multiple levels. The need for a new magical era is described in multiple ways. The magic of the world is receding, as is hinted at in the title Esoteric Ebb. Everglad's motivations are described as an attempt to restore the magic, to create a new era where the esoteric is not ebbing, but is restored. The game also implies that there is a need for a new religious era, one where Earth and the gods are no longer present in the world, directing and forcing their ideas of morality into weaker races. An era that is not restricted by the failures of Earth, but one that rather learns from them. Combined with the generally sinister take on the celestials and the angels, the Golden Horde, there is a suggestion that humans, halflings, dwarves, and goblins can no longer depend on gods, angels, or even the elves. Finally, there is a suggestion of a need for a new political era, one that is no longer dominated by the nationalism of the clerics as a default historical precedent, but instead replaced by a more democratic system, as put in place by Earth's will and by the Freestriders. The game highlights the attempts of the nationalists, the Old Guard, at suppressing the election through hiding Earth's legacy and casting feeble mind on the Lord Patriarch as part of the problem of the Old Era. Esoteric Ebb also points out that a new, stronger Norvik is needed because of the foreign threats of the Elven Ilim Empire and the Celestial Golden Horde, both of whom try to interfere in the election in different ways. Finally, it's implied that a new political era is needed to address the difficulties and challenges of the dwarves, and particularly the goblins. In the Bible, while a new era is not needed due to the failures of God, a new relationship and covenant is needed due to the failures of Israel and Judah. But as it is, Christ has obtained a ministry that is as much more excellent than the old as the covenant he mediates is better, since it is enacted on better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, there would have been no occasion to look for a second. For he finds fault with them when he says, "Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will establish a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah." In speaking of a new covenant, he makes the first one obsolete, and what is becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to vanish away. Hebrews chapter 8, verses 6 to 8 and verse 13. Just as God creates a new messianic covenant to replace an old one that is vanishing away, the Mosaic covenant, Esoteric Ebb ends with the era fading away and being replaced by a new, more hopeful era. Whenever a CRPG has significant amounts of choice and consequence, I am usually concerned that the effectiveness of the narrative themes can be watered down or even eliminated by allowing too much player agency. Esoteric Ebb seems to manage this risk well, as the game would suggest is important through its themes. In fact, the needs for identity, friendship, managing risk, and a new era all come through incredibly clearly, even if some of them may be impacted by player choice. The storytelling of the game really impressed me, and not only was the game fun and funny, but meaningful and even, at times, moving. If you finished the game and finished this video, I hope the video was helpful or at least enjoyable. That's all I have for you in this video. Bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If this video blessed you in some way, please consider watching some of my other videos, subscribing, sharing the video with your friends, or sharing with me some of your thoughts in the comments below.